Okay, what's good, y'all? I'm gonna do a tutorial on some basic effects that I learned about, and yeah, I'm gonna do this in one take because it's gonna be my bedtime soon, and I'm trying to catch those Z's. If you hear anything random in the background, it's either my dad watching football or be trying to catch these Overwatch drops. But yeah, um, so I just quickly synced up the clip. It's nothing special. I didn't even add a song. It's just for the sake of a tutorial. But like right here, when you shoot, you have a impact. You have an impact when it hits, and then yeah, that's how you edit Fortnite. If I remember right, I haven't edited Fortnite in a while. But the first effect we're gonna go over is exposure. So what I like to do is I like having an adjustment layer going back 4 frames, adding exposure, setting a keyframe for 1 at the impact, and then putting it back to 0. Yeah, so it's different on any game. I feel like it's a little bit too noticeable on Fortnite. In COD, I normally do this, and I put the exposure in the scope, so it's actually fewer frames. But yeah, this is something that I do for my impacts a lot. I would wanna add um the whatchamacallit this. I would want to make it something like this. Like you could obviously mess around with this, but this is also a way to get like some good impact, like a little flicker. I might actually move it a little bit more out for when they're at the peak of their thing, or when the velo starts to slow down. So maybe like here, and then ease it, and then yeah. Okay, so we already have a little bit of impact. Next effect I want to go over is Radial Blur. Um, so when you're doing your pan crop, which it depends on the game really, but I always do my scales on the adjustment layer, and then um, whatever I have to do positioning, I do it on the clip. But I like doing my scales on the clip, so anything underneath it moves. So like really random. You would want to of course put pan crop here. Sure, I guess I'll do that. Um, it's gonna be nothing much. It's gonna be something. So then it'll be like 140 or whatever, and then it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I like doing my pan crop in like increments of 7 or whatever. That's not what I wanted to do. And then when the thing hits, sure, we can go back up to 105, because oftentimes you don't actually. I don't think that this part will look good. I think I'll have to revise it if I do end up going back and care enough about it. Um, what was I saying? Um, I forgot what I was saying. But for pan crop, on Fortnite especially, I like to do these. I meant to put a thing. What was this thing at 107? But on Fortnite, I like to do S curves for my pan crop. On other games, I don't really think it matters as much, so I don't really. Wait, I'm actually okay. Yeah, okay, but yeah, I like doing S curves because I feel like they just look the best. Because there can always be some kind of motion with this. So like a lot of editors, I'm not calling anyone out, but if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But they don't have good pan crop because it just like goes to no motion so abruptly. Oh wait, I remember what I was gonna say. Um, so basically, um, a little bit of stuff here can like have a lot of impact, right? Like you don't always need your values to be super crazy high in order to get impact. Like this is even a bit too much, I would say. Maybe if it's linear, that's still too much. Uh, Maybe even 101. Yeah, that's fine. Um, yeah, I've been spending too much time on this, but you're gonna like you could use the default After Effects motion blur. But I don't really think it looks that good. Like it's already gone, right? And the blur looks kind of shit too. I'm not gonna lie. So what I like to do, where's my thing? Where's my shot? Okay, what I like to do is wait. I'm actually bear with me here. I like to use Radial Blur, and I like to use Zoom Radial Blur. So like put it on like 20, and then keyframe it with your exposure back down to 0, and then you have a pretty nice blur if it'll pre-render. Don't mind me editing in full. Yeah, but it's a lot of blur. Whenever I edit with scopes, I like to have it on one of the scope frames. Just because I don't know, it makes it look better. Usually I keep it linear, but on Fortnite I don't think I can do that. But yeah, it's just a better blur, whatever. Um, and then also when you don't want to scale into a bajillion, you can still have impact with the radial blur. I know it's so crazy. For this one, I think I'm gonna move it out a bit, but keep it linear. And definitely lower the value. 20 is too much, maybe 5. And then because the scale is a little weird, I'm going to add motion tile. And then you put your motion tile at the top for most effects. For most adjustment layers, you need to have your motion tile at the top, otherwise it doesn't work. Or that's just how my After Effects works. After Effects is a really weird software, it might be different for yours, but yeah. Right, so this is with it, and then this is without it. Right, it looks a lot better with the thing. What's it? Yep. Why can't I edit this fast normally? The ones who know, they know. They know my struggle. Um, so yeah, this is what we have so far with only a few effects. And, um, of course, you could add shake, but I'm assuming that most people watching this already know how to add shake, so I'm not gonna be going over that. Um, if you look hard enough, you could find good shake tutorials. So then oh yeah, Distort Chroma. Distort Chroma can have multiple uses. Like sometimes I like having it like as a substitute where, like for instead of like having, okay, well, how do you spell distort? How do you spell distort? Distort Chrome. Oh, I was spelling it right. Okay. Anyways, I like to have it on like playouts or whatever just to give it like a little wiggle thing. Um, but you already know about that because like this is Distort Chroma. But what you might not know is that if you up the or I didn't know this until kind of recently when I was just playing around with the thing. But if you up if it's either you up the blur lens or you lower it. It just depends on which type of effect you're going for. Um, am I using the wrong one? Chroma. Is it RGB or is it Chroma? I don't remember. Oh wait, no. Okay, yeah. You up the thing and then I like to lower the value. Um, yeah. So you get kind of like this cool RGB thingy. Um, yeah, it looks kind of cool. If you, I'm gonna put it in here for part of the thingy. Yeah. Considering how long this impact might be, I might keep a little bit. And that's, I feel, animated a bit too much. So I'm going to do, yep, I don't need to narrate this. I'm sure you can follow along. And then if you think it's too much RGB, you can try and make the values closer to each other, and if you eventually get them to be matching, there'll be no RGB split, and it'll just have the warp effect. Yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. I still think this is a bit too much, so I'm gonna up the value. I'm gonna assume that that'll look nice, and I'll come back to it after in a bit, right? Okay. Alright, it looks fine. It looks whatever. Like it would look better with a shake, but so there's that. Then there's, I already went over transform, radial blur. Oh yeah, HueSatBright. I used exposure here, but if you're but HueSatBright, it does it all. I might, yeah, so if you're looking to change your saturation or whatever, this is like the simplest way to do it, I found. Excuse me. I just had pizza, so you know, we're like, we're up, bro, we're up. So if you use this, it's just like desaturating, whatever, yeah, yada yada yada. And then you can also mess around with the brightness. Brightness is different from exposure because exposure mainly works with the highlights, while brightness works with all of them. Or at least that's how I was taught it. But yeah, you see, this isn't a really good one because there aren't many shadows. So, um, but yeah, you could see that on a different clip. Uh, Night sky. So, this doesn't really fit into this edit thingy, that tutorial thing that I'm working on, but, or what am I doing? Solid. I like doing this on a solid. But I'm only gonna cut it to one frame because it is kind of laggy. Um, but basically, what you can do is you can generate a custom night sky. You gonna render? Why is it like this? Make your render. Okay, there it is. Um, so you can generate your own night sky. You have full control over it. You can change where it's looking at, all of that. You can animate it. Um, you can up the star intensity. You can change it. You can add other effects to make it nice. I personally wouldn't use this as a skybox alone, just because you can find better skyboxes. But if you're trying to, I know that I did this in my other edit that no one bought the project file to. I'm so sad. You can just use this for the background, and it's nice if you don't want to go get a custom thing once it's done. But again, that effect is fairly laggy, so I would, if it's easy, you could screenshot it. I mean, render out um, a PNG of it, and then just animate it with turbulent displacement or something. Um, Next up is Uniglow. Uniglow it's different from Deep Glow because it doesn't have the same saturation levels. let me just get this thing that hasn't been edited yet. And let me, so it's uh one of the better glows that it's one of the better glows that doesn't take a super long time to pre-render. You might be thinking, "Oh, this looks like shit right now," but you have to really mess with the thresholds and stuff in order to make Uniglow look good. So thresholds like the lower the threshold, the more it will apply to, because normally glows apply to the more highlighted stuff. Intensity is intensity, radius is radius, gamma is like the gamma, saturation is the saturation. Then you can colors, aberration. It's like what deep glow does, except less laggy and less saturated. Um, so yeah, I would recommend it for that. I personally like the way deep glow looks on more things like scopes or whatever, but things like glows on devices, I normally use deep Uniqlo. Extract. This is okay. Extract is for getting rid of the sky. Everyone has their own way to get rid of the sky. Normally you would actually see. Okay, yeah, there's a slider. But you just like get rid of the things what you don't want. For this clip, I don't actually think it works that well, but for a lot of stuff like in real life, I used extract for my film. It was kind of shit, so I'm not posting it. But yeah, um, it basically just gets rid of the brightest or darkest colors, and then makes it transparent. So, yeah, normally I use it to get rid of the sky, and then I do a rough mask. And then also, if you have any masking things, you need to have key cleaner. It just cleans up your key, it makes it look a lot better. It gets rid of some of the rough edges. You can't really see it on this clip, but it does. It really helps. So if your masks are looking kind of shit, like right here, you can see it. It you see the stuff that's not getting them with key cleaner. It kind of just gets rid of it. So that's what key cleaner does. I would really recommend using it if you're making any sort of key. Next is warp. So warp is like the jack of all trades effect, bro. So you have regular fisheye, warped like negative fisheye, which I'm sure most people know about. Fisheye. So it's like this, and you can animate it and add this, or you can just add radial blur from before. So that always works. But another thing that people don't use is warp, arc upper and arc lower. It just bends the thing, so it's a good way to like add motion to your thing. I like animating it a bit, so it's like 0 and then goes to negative 30 or whatever, or no 30. I'm used to the other warps. So you do that, and then yeah, just make sure your warp isn't going a stupid direction. Like if it went the wrong way, you can just change the thing and you also have to change it to vertical. Is it even doing anything right here? Or did I mess up the settings? It looks like I set it to 3. That would do it. That would make sense. Okay. So yeah. You can decide if you like it or not. I like it, and then I usually use it in conjunction with other warps. I don't really like the way it looks with motion blur on. I just think it looks kind of silly. Um, but yeah, there's that, and then I might pair it with warp, not warp waves, like the wave warp in this thing. And then I switch some keyframes around, bada bing, bada boom, you know. I also like horizontal better for my warp wave thing once it's, and then I make sure the graph isn't doing anything stupid. Right. Hello. You gonna pre-render? Or are you just mucking around right now? Yeah. So we got that. Depending on your song, I might make it a little bit less sharp, right? Because right now this is pretty sharp, and if I had a song that wasn't super sharp, it would be kind of weird. But for a lot of things, I like it. You can even try spacing your warps out a bit. So like I just had it right next to each other, and now I moved it, and then I might add a framer here, black and white, and white. I don't like that, and this is not sharp enough. If I were to continue with that. And then that just looks silly, so I would probably lower the amount. Or I'd go back to where it was originally, which I can always do. Yeah, I'm gonna move it back, because it looks silly right there. So yeah, I okay, yeah, so there's that. You can mess around with warps. Then we have directional blur. This kind of ties into this. I don't like using directional blur as an impact or whatever alone. It's more of a complementary effect. So you just set the direction, maybe like 90, because it's gonna be, yeah. And then you add your blur. It's kind of self-explanatory. If you don't get it, I don't really know how to explain it better, but I'm assuming you get it because you've been in the editing column long enough to get this video. And everyone kind of just spams this effect. It's like a complementary effect. It's not supposed to be used by itself. If you use it by itself, it just looks bad. So right there, it's adding a better blur that doesn't displace the clip beneath it, right? So on some transitions, I might pan it out. Like I might pan it to the left or right, because radial blur, it doesn't go to left to the right that well. So if I move it to the, so if okay, let me okay, give me one more try. If I were to pan something, if I were to pan something like this, right? And I added that it looks kind of, I don't like it, we already been over this. So what I might do is I might add directional blur, 20, depends on whatever, and then maybe mini-max, honestly. Again, I don't really like mini-max, but depending on how you use it, it can look okay. What was I? Just horizontal. Also, I like horizontal minimax more than vertical. And you don't want to like. I've seen people do like a shit ton of minimax. You don't like want a lot of minimax, right? But it's good for transitions or whatever. Um, yeah. Okay. What are you gonna say now? Okay. So camera lens blur. I I like sometimes I like blurring my impacts a bit, you know, get them nice. And so for this, I like camera lens blur. It's just fast, easy, you know, all that kind of stuff. What you want in a lens blur. I don't know if it's fast actually. Don't fact check me on that either. I'm not trying to get humbled. You know what I mean. So yeah, like that. sometimes I leave it linear, like most times I leave it linear. I leave a lot of my effects linear because linear doesn't equal bad. It's just like when it's overbearingly linear, then yeah, right here is getting borderline overbearingly linear. If I shorten the keyframes, it would be better, but uh, yeah. So like that, I like it for impacts. Like I don't actually want to save you. I'm deleting you after this. Actually, should I? No, I'll leave it here, just in case anybody wants it. Um, or actually, I'm gonna forget this project probably even existed. I'm deleting you after this video. But for regular stuff, like if you're doing compositing, I don't have bokeh effect, and so the best lens blur that I have found is BCC lens blur OBS. People used to like have a field day over this, but only recently did I learn how to actually use it. So first off, I go sharper. I set my gamma to like somewhere between 400 and 600, so in that area. I like to leave it at 3 or 4 just so I can see what I'm doing originally. And for the iris, I up the sides. The bokeh, I lower the bokeh. It's like somewhere between -20 and -50. Um, and then you can like mess around with this, but like I think that having a negative bokeh is like actually kind of essential in order to get like a not essential because like you can like you can do a bokeh like this, like nothing's stopping you. I just think that it looks worse than this because this is like what an actual bokeh would look like. But that's for more cinematic stuff. Probably you don't want all that for your impacts, especially since it's like really slow for your computer. Next is add grain. Add grain, it's really just a grain. It's just the one that I like to use. So you see this little window thing, you get rid of that by putting it on final output. And then boom, you have your grain. I know, it's so crazy. And then you can choose like a bunch of presets that they have or whatever. So like I can use one, and you might be like, oh, it looks so weird. You can like actually see the colors, right? And then you can just monochrome it or whatever. And you can also change the settings here. So yeah, I use that as my primary grain. There might be better. I mean, open. There might be better grains. Next up is photo filter. Photo filter. It's just like a filter thingy. It after you color balance your clips, which we have a tutorial for. Um, I this is like a good way to start off your color grading process. Because yeah, it just pushes your stuff in the right direction. So like it doesn't do too much, but like it does stuff. You wouldn't see the best results right now because again, this is not white balanced. So yeah, with all of the stuff, like with this is with no shakes. I feel like this could be a little better, but yeah, this is like a good starting point. Like you should like what I'm trying to say is without shakes, this is pretty decent. Anyways, I hear my mom getting out of her room, so I'm going to go before she beats my ass. Thank you for watching. Yeah.